Hi. I was given the responsibility at Mumbai Tech Week to moderate two sessions. The first one was yesterday with the Chief Minister, and now it's you guys. So, no pressure. And hopefully we can keep the bar the same. For whoever was there yesterday would have seen the CM brought the Josh. So that's what I think the audience over here is expecting from this session as well. But Sharad and Manohar, glad to have you both over here. We've obviously been chatting a lot about everything from AI, edge, and cloud, and look forward to spending the next 20 minutes, throwing some light to the audience. So as just quick starters, would love to get some introductions. Manohar, what brings you here? What do you do?
Thank you. I don't know how do I show Josh because I'm a soft-spoken person, but I can tell you how you can see the Josh. There's a stall outside for Meta, and I'm going to talk about the wearables that you can go and experience. So the first thing, whoever's not experienced can go and see that to drive the Josh within you on what I'm talking about, and then you rationalize as to what I said was right. So my name is Manohar Hotchandani. I work with Meta. I've been here for 6 years. I am the BD for Reality Labs and AI partnerships in India. So that's what I do.
Hi, Aakrit, thanks for moderating this. I'm Sharad Sanghi, the founder of Neysa, and we build an AI cloud acceleration platform, and we also have a booth here. So, hope people will get a chance to visit it.
Yeah. I think, but it's easier to try his product than yours in the booth. I think we can try glasses, but I don't know if we can buy a GPU or take one home. You should start that, by the way. I think then everybody will run away from there to your booth. Okay, so let's start with how and why this session is so interesting is both of you bring very different perspectives between what's happening on the edge and wearables and what's of course happening on the cloud and GPUs. So let's just start with an open question of how are people today consuming AI across the worlds that you see? Maybe Manohar, we can start with you.
So how many of you understand what AI on the edge is? If not, let me just make it easier and simpler for you. Whenever you ask a query, logically the intelligence is built on the device rather than sending everything back to the data center. Some is processed on the device and some is processed on the data center. So that's the first premise on the edge. Now, why is Meta betting big on that is because of a few reasons. One, latency. How many of you understand latency when I do a query? What kind of response does it take for you to bring back that information? So first is latency. Second is, I think more important than the first one is also when you're talking of an edge or a wearable device, you're logically also finding a form factor that can see your perspective in the literal world, right? Which is, right now I'm wearing specs, I'm seeing you, which is, because of eye correction, I'm seeing you through that. It is a literal perspective of seeing the world as you see. So I think those are two big important reasons that we believe that wearables will be the next big platform on the edge. And to basically start to answer your questions in real time, I think that's a form factor that we chose to do some work here and some work back in the data center to process and give it back to you. So that's the simplest form of AI on the edge that I can explain.
Amazing. So just clarifying that a little bit for everybody. So the Ray-Ban glasses, when I ask it a question that, hey, listen, like show me what's in front of me or take a picture or who is this guy as an example, is most of that done now on device, on edge?
No, it is a summation of multiple things in the architecture that it's built out. The wake word is on the device.
The wake word is what?
Hey Meta. So for example, when we say hey Meta, it doesn't need internet. It's on the device for you to process it. And then depending on the query type in terms of complexity, it can either be processed on the phone, goes to the data center, or processes it on the device. So logically, it's broken into multiple things in terms of how complex is the query for it to be done.
And, getting a bit technical here, but I know there's a ton of technical founders and CTOs here. So Manohar, in that case, on the device itself, do you have like a mini chip or something that's processing it, or how does it work?
I think a lot of those details will be on the site for you to basically go into, because once I go into the 4-tier architecture, it'll take me a longer time to explain. But I would suggest one thing. Go try it out now in terms of the way we've broken this for you to figure out how it works. There are some areas where you might not need the internet. There are some areas where you'll definitely need the internet. But let me make it simpler for you. The form factor of the phone, it's sitting in my pocket right now, right? It can't see the literal world. But the glasses are in the literal world seeing everything that I am seeing. So logically, it sees, and when I say, it also says things to see in that perspective, in the context. So that's the context that we are building up.
Awesome. I would love to pick up this thread offline on the architecture, by the way. What other, and this may not necessarily be the meta context, but just rounding off AI on edge, examples of other devices where edge becomes critical and important over a period of time, and form factors?
I think there'll be many more things coming, but at this point, for us at Meta, we've taken the glasses. But logically, if you go out, I'm sure over a period of time, you'll see many other devices having this on the edge. Because go back to the era where you could talk to a device. There were more voice command systems rather than a conversational AI. Now it's moved from a voice command system to a conversational AI. So you could go back and forth on this in terms of questions and answers. That was more like waking up something into doing an action.
I think we had watches at one point that were trying to do some stuff.
There'll be more. There were, and there'll be more. But what I'm saying is the form factor is going to, on the edge, is going to grow significantly, because one important thing we are doing is making voice a part of the system. So in my follow-up that I'll go a little deeper in explaining that to you when we do that. So I'll give you an example of what he's saying. When I'm walking on the road, I look at this, say, hey, I'm walking, let's say, in this street, and I look at a building and say, hey, what am I looking at? It should logically tell me what am I looking at in real time. Now, in the same thing, I'm also doing, let's say, a phone call with someone in a different country, and there's a translation that is required. It should be able to revert back to me in real time. Every second that I take extra is a broken experience. So it needs to answer in many ways a complex query in milliseconds.
Okay, shifting from things happening on glasses and this architecture real time to what is it? How far is the data center here? The big one, like 2 kilometers? Yeah,
a few kilometers.
To the world of machines and data centers and land and power, without which big models cannot operate. Sharad, give us a sense of. Let's start a little bit with. As you look at the power of GPUs and compute, you have been doing this longer than anybody in India, and now specifically when it comes to AI workloads. What are the types of use cases you are seeing emerging over a period of time, and where's this real horsepower going towards?
So we see use cases, so we track multiple segments. So it's enterprises. So for example, the biggest consumer in India is the banking, finance, and insurance segment. We also see a lot of work happening on research and education, the IITs, the ISCs, and many other, the BITS, Pilani, and others. We are seeing a lot of adoption by government. Government has set up centers of excellence for smart cities, for healthcare, for education. We're also seeing a lot of, obviously, startups, which is the focus of MTW. And so that we're seeing adoption across all sectors. The kind of use cases we see, right from coding, of course, is the low-hanging fruit, to document summarization, to call center management, speech to text, text to speech use cases. We're seeing some interesting use cases. In the healthcare sector, for example, we're seeing drug discovery happening using AI. There's a company called Merrill Life Sciences. There's we work with Cure.ai that's using, radiological image diagnostics using AI, right? So there's use cases across the board.
So in two that caught my attention. So let's talk drug discovery a little bit. And I want to take this back to like summing up, or rather the conversation we're having. So in drug discovery, how does a potential customer work with you? And then how much computing power is needed over a period of time, and where does that come from?
Yeah, so let's take the drug discovery example. So for this customer takes several, in this particular case, they've taken bare metal clusters from us. So we provide a set of GPU infrastructure. We provide storage and network storage and compute. We also have our own software layer to do management of this infrastructure. And then we provide managed services to this client. But
So they've bought a set number of GPUs from you.
yeah, so they've rented a set
And
number
that
of GPUs.
renting is through co-located data centers.
Yeah, no, so we provide GPU as a service from a data center.
Okay.
They rent that, they access it securely. We provide the security because, you know, drug discovery is a very secure process. We provide the robustness, reliability, etc. And we also provide the software layer for them to consume the GPUs. But there are other ways of consuming GPUs.
So stick with that. So then after that, what are they doing on top? Like in terms of the actual use case of
Yeah,
drug
so
discovery?
then they use, you know, they fine-tune models. They build their own proprietary models. Initially, they do training and fine-tuning, and then and they also use us for inferencing. So they actually use us for inferencing as well.
And so then in this case, this example you're talking about, they have an internal AI research and applied team?
Absolutely. So wherever, you know, they have a very strong, you know, I think 150 PhDs and many researchers who actually are doing this drug discovery.
So ultimately, your users end up being AI researchers, applied engineers, and others who are basically leveraging this stack to consume AI.
Yes, and we also have a lot of developers. So when it comes to our platform, we have, you know, machine learning engineers, developers, generative AI engineers who can just consume AI. They don't want to get into the nitty-gritties of GPUs. They want a software layer, an orchestration platform that allows them to, you know, quickly build their models and quickly fine-tune their models, quickly do inferencing. They want to be able to just say, okay, here's the model, give me the endpoint, and I'll deploy, right? So that's what we see from a developer perspective.
Got it. Switching gears, and I'll sort of extension of this question, I'll start with you, Sharad, is so in this context, like for you, and what you are seeing as use cases, what does multimodal mean? So text, voice, video, what else? And then how does consumption and again, compute power and workloads differ?
Yeah, so obviously with text, voice, video, you know, both inputs as well as outputs, so speech to text, text to speech, image to text, etc. All these use cases we see, for example, in, you know, in manufacturing to detect defects, right? So we see the medical X-ray example that I gave you where they diagnose images. And as it becomes multimodal, for example, the model may become larger, the memory requirement may be larger. So it depends on the model, depends on the kind of consumption. But we have a team that actually sits with the client, sizes the application, and then figures out what is the right infrastructure.
Is it generally video is the most consuming?
Yeah, typically video is the most.
Then image or voice after that?
Image.
So
voice,
video, image, voice, text.
Yeah, text, yeah.
Got it.
It could be voice also, so I would say, but video is clearly the largest.
Got it. Manohar, what does multimodal in your world mean?
Simple. How would you like to interact with a device? Voice becomes the native factor for AI on edge. In simplicity, let's go back. Voice is only truly hands-free, eyes-free modality in the way that you're looking at it. It's basically hands-free, right? Voice. You don't need to touch anywhere. You don't need to tap anywhere. You can keep speaking to it. So for us, voice is the native interface for AI on the edge, as we see. Now, think of this in true form. If you were fending for a kid, looking after, or if you're cooking, or if you are doing something, you would not stop that action to go and touch a device, right? You would logically, if you were to just keep talking to it, it should be able to take it within you. So in our form factor, if you look at, it should logically become a part of your life, not outside of it where you break this and then get into technology to go deeper into it. That's point number one. I think it's a bigger shift also in terms of how you're looking at this shift happening on the edge. We moved from the PC era where we had the mice in the GUI space, which went to touch, and then it went into voice on the edge. So I think voice is a native factor for us on the edge, if you have to simplify that.
And but in the wearable, particularly the glasses, there's obviously I can I can record video, right, in the glasses. Do you do any AI processing on those videos?
In the sense?
let's say if I could take a video, is there, and then I send it back. Am I sending it back to the cloud to do any AI processing, or does the variable do anything?
It is on the action that you're basically asking it to do. If the action determines on where it needs to go and how it needs to process.
Got it. But otherwise, voice becomes a native, at least interactive medium, as far as any wearable device goes.
So just simplify this. If I'm looking at and say, hey Meta, what am I looking at again? I'm giving it a command to say, what am I looking at? And this is looking at it and then transforming something back to me in my ear. So in simplicity, that's how you look at it.
Understood. So, Manohar, on the next topic, what's the India remit as you think about as a global company, of course, for Meta? Yesterday I was telling somebody that you have been, Meta as a company has been a very key partner to even Mumbai Tech Week and team for 4 years. This is the first, personally for me, this is the first time I've seen a Meta Ray-Ban booth at any event here. So how do you think about your plans specifically for India over the next, say, 12 months?
I think I'll simplify this. How do we see what we are doing in India in terms of localized innovation? Let me put it that way so that it becomes easier for them, the audience here, to start consuming the product. Because when you consume, you start to engage with it and it becomes a part of your daily living, right? That's exactly what happens to the phone when you had more apps and everything else. If you were to simplify this, we look at how people start to look at engaging with the glass. How do you pay? How do you communicate? How do you entertain? How do you buy? All of that becomes localized for you. You start to engage with it more. So in GFF last year, we actually demonstrated through the glass a payment on a UPI mechanism.
I was about to say,
yeah,
Google Pay Sharad.
So logically, if you look at it, you scan, majority of the payments are below a particular value. When you can't take out the phone every time, but if you scan and pay, that became the first POC that we demonstrated. Second, we localized the voice. We have Deepika Padukone, whom we are localized. So if you want not the international voice, but you want a local voice, you can actually get that local voice in the language, in Hindi or in English, and more languages coming. We also have Telugu today.
And did you say that's
Kannada.
Deepika's voice?
So there is a Deepika voice behind, in case you choose to. But there is also a voice that is a normal voice that you want. And that's a part of localization that we drive, because imagine when all of us are talking, we recognize each other by voice.
Correct.
So how do you basically recognize to a localized flavor becomes the second thing. The third thing is localization of language. So we are also localizing by working together with partners on language so that it just doesn't become a translation. It also understands the context of localization and then switches between languages. How many times do we do Hindi and English together? It should be able to understand that rather than do one area. So in our parlance, the 4 principles are: make that AI engaging for everyday use, for it to be contextualized and used. That's the context of.
So the scan and pay UPI, it's still POC?
Yeah, we're working with regulators to go on that, because that's the first time that it's going on.
And what about the Deepika voice?
It's out there. So if you want today, go there, try it out, it works.
I'll do that right now, thanks.
Yeah.
That definitely is a good feature, especially maybe to put me to sleep. But Sharad, you are,
Aakrit, before you go, since there are many cricket fans here, I think we localize one more feature called cricket, because that came with feedback that it is a national experience for people to have. So if you want to follow Mumbai Indians, I know a lot of you may be following many other teams, you can actually now get a wicket, you can get key points that you decide in that once you're working in an environment. So you don't need to keep looking at things. So
is that going to be there for the final tomorrow?
yeah, it's already on. You can actually get it.
Cool.
So you can try it.
Okay, awesome. Sharad, you're of course, Neysa is a proud homegrown Indian AI company, and proud because we all look at this company with great pride in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. Instead of talking about what Manohar mentioned, what Meta is doing, I want to ask you a slightly different question. What are the challenges you are seeing as a native Indian AI, cloud AI company, as you are trying to, get your business to scale locally?
So for any infrastructure provider, there's obviously a lot of capital intensity. There's a risk of obsolescence of GPUs. You invest a lot in a GPU and then NVIDIA or AMD comes with a new release of GPU. There's also the fact that right now the biggest challenge we're facing is memory prices. So there's such a big shortage. You've seen the stock of Samsung, Micron and SK Hynix go through the roof, right? So there's such a big memory.
Why didn't you tell us all about it back in December that we should buy these stocks?
There's such a big memory shortage that what a server that we bought for 4 crores in December is now 5.7 crores. Wow. So that's the 40% increase. And these prices are so fluid, they're changing every 2 weeks. So when you give a price to a customer, they sign up, and our cost increases, that's a challenge, right? So effectively, and then of course, we are a much smaller team. We are competing with the hyperscalers. And so that's another big challenge because people have trust in, they already know who the hyperscalers are. But we are focused on AI, we are AI native, we're focused on India. We want to democratize AI in India and we know what are the challenges. So for example, when folks, when we talk to large banks or we talk to any banking and financial customer, they want an air-gapped solution. So we have the flexibility to do that. We don't have to have multi-tenancy all the way.
And when you were walking through your challenges, I don't hear, at least from you, ever a challenge on the demand side.
No, the demand there's enough demand. India, when you compare to the world, US and China demand is much more than India demand, but India is growing nicely. I think last year when we were in MTW, most of the developers in the audience were doing proof of concepts and pilots. Now we're seeing different questions being asked in terms of how do we take this to production, how do we scale, how do we make it more reliable, how do we build security on it. So demand is there, right? And there's, another thing that's happened is India is the second largest consumer of AI. In addition to building AI, we are also the second largest consumer of AI. So a lot of the global cloud inferencing providers are now coming to India, especially with the government tax breaks. So that's another piece of demand that we are going after.
Got it. One last question before we have to run. I have walked around, spoken, talked to, I think the majority of the audience, at least the highest percentage, I would say, in Mumbai Tech Week, are broadly developers, right? So developers and CTOs, engineers, who are trying to basically build. And by the way, separately, everybody today should be a developer, right? I also am. I think you also are. We're all vibe coding, if nothing else. Manohar, starting with you, talk to the developer audience a little bit of what they can do with AI on Edge.
Great question. Thank you. Long back when I came out of college, long back I say because it's really long back in today's context, I used to code on Unix. And then I lost touch because I got into the business side. But I'm now starting to go back to code again because the machine allows me to do, to Aakrit's point. So the developers last year at Connect, which is the annual developer event for us, where we go release things with people, we actually announced something called as a wearable developer access kit, toolkit. And that is logically something where we open up the device vision and the audio sensors for the developers to start come and develop something on top where they would be able to see the world now. I'll give you an example of this. If somebody is working on an app which basically identifies medicines and then says what medicine is it or otherwise, they can now do that because they look at it. Imagine a mechanic looking at an engine and now gets that, logically says what engine it is, it should get all diagnostics around it. Imagine a student, if it's sitting in the audience, focuses on a problem and says, how do I do a step-by-step guide me, can now do this. So from a developer perspective, you can start to open up many other things on it because we've opened the vision side and we've opened the audio sensor. So you can start looking at it and start to develop solutions on it. We are seeing some early offshoots of that globally. Visually impaired driving and navigation is one thing which I want to bring up, which happened. And then lots of people are now in health. So basically coaching you to get yourself into health is another area that we've seen that's taken off. The second piece that we give to developers in addition to Meta AI running on the app is if you have a third-party thing that you've developed that can coexist for your enterprise or for your specific focus line of business, it can coexist with Meta AI now to start doing that. So I think in India, that perspective can be, you can now start solving problems for scale, if you can. So they start thinking on that. The apps today that are sitting on the phone are Spotify. So imagine if once we create the thing on variety of engagements that we talked about, you will see many apps basically being pulled in from that perspective. But remember two things. The vision part that I told you in terms of cameras that are opened up and the audio sensors. So start thinking from that side and then start to visualize what you can do with the spectacles.
Sharad, I asked you this question earlier in the morning. I'm going to put you on the spot because this is an important question. I am a startup founder. I'm a developer in the audience. I want 75 H100s to train the next manufacturing AI model. Can I go to Neysa.ai and get it?
Yes, you can. From a cloud, so as I said, we offer two types of offering. One is the bare metal clusters, which we do on longer term contracts, and we have the cloud offering. So we have like several hundred GPUs on the cloud that developers can take online using our Velocis platform. I think Karan yesterday detailed what we do here. So yes, developers can. Yes, if somebody wants to train using thousands of GPUs just for a short time, that'll be difficult for us to do right now.
Absolutely, that's not possible.
That will happen later, but not right now. That you can go to a hyperscaler to do because they have the scale, but hopefully we'll get there soon.
Just give us a sense of, and you don't have to be specific, but give us a sense of, again, like I said, I want to use 50 H100s to do some sort of inferencing or fine-tuning. Like, what do I need to do in terms of preparing from a capital perspective? How long do I typically need to sign up with you?
No, so if it's on the cloud, you can do short-term, few days, you can do,
okay.
Yeah, you can do that, and that's typically on, so if it's a longer-term contract, H100s go at around $2.2 an hour.
$2.2 an hour.
Yeah, and if it's a short-term contract, it'll be higher, but
sure.
because it all depends on utilization. But you can, rent these GPUs on the cloud for a short duration, or you can take a bare metal cluster or GPUs for a longer duration and get a better price. And kind of like in the hyperscaler parlance, a reserved instance versus a spot instance.
Yeah, I'm talking a little bit more about spot because that's usually developer mindset. So again, let's say, and can I get up and running for spot on cloud for 50 GPUs pretty quickly?
Yes, very quickly. We do, in India, we do a little bit of a KYC, with 50 GPUs, but other than that, we can onboard you very quickly.
Got it. Amazing. So much to learn for all of us. I think right from, what AI can do on that little small device. And, I learned a lot. I'm going to go. I've been thinking about buying it for a long time. My wife has been asking me to buy it for a long time, but we haven't. Because I don't want to make the mistake of not using it again. I can't buy your device, unfortunately, because that is a lot more.
You can rent it.
I can rent it, like you said. But incredible. Thank you, Manohar. Thanks, Sharad, for being here.
I just said two things. You can do both on this. You can do the sunglass, but you can also do the prescription lenses in case you want to convert this into a prescription side. So I just want to land you with this because a lot of people come and ask me the second question, so I'm just preempting that. So you can do either of. Next time both of us come on stage, we probably come with that. My numbers change, it's gone to rework. Otherwise, I would have worn that and shown it to you. So thank you so much.
Maybe we'll do the chat itself, all of us, through the AR, VR. But no, amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it's great to see such a phenomenal turnout at Mumbai Tech Week. Thanks, Aakrit.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for hosting us.